About 7 years ago, I was walking through Harborside, Oakland, and I met a man named Jason David. Jason came up to me and he said, "Mr. DeAngelo, I read about Harborside in the newspaper. I'm wondering if you can help me. I'm desperate. I'm depressed. I think I might kill myself." I said, "Jason, whatever you do, don't do that. My mission in life is to help people with cannabis medicine. What's going on?" He said, "I have a little boy. He's 7 years old. His name's Jaden. He's got Dravet syndrome, a very severe form of epilepsy. My son has dozens of seizures every day, some of them grand mal seizures. I've tried everything to help him. I've gone to every doctor. I've tried every pharmaceutical. I've tried every diet, every therapy. Nothing is working. As he gets older, the seizures are getting more intense. I'm afraid he's going to die. I'm a single dad, and if I lose my son, I don't know what I'm going to do. There's no reason for me to live." I was so moved by Jason's story. I knew I had to help him. I knew Harborside had to come through, but I was nervous. We had never given cannabis medicine to a 7-year-old child before. I didn't want to get busted. I didn't want Harborside to get shut down, and more importantly, I didn't want Jason to get busted, and I didn't want his son to be taken away from him. So I knew a doctor that would write a recommendation for Jaden and a caregiver recommendation for Jason. We got that done, and we took the risk, and we started with pure CBD tincture. And like that, within hours of giving Jaden that first tincture, those seizures started to go down. We kept giving him the CBD. He kept getting better and better. He was able to go to school again. He was able to talk to his dad and learn language skills. He was even able to swim in a pool with his friends. Jason came up to me, gave me a big hug, and he said, "Andrew, thank you. Not only did you help save Jaden's life, you helped save my life." I'm Andrew DeAngelo. 12 years ago, my brother Steve and I and our partner, Dress Wedding, we started Harborside in Oakland, California. Before that, I was a cannabis activist for many years, trying to change the laws in California and across the country so that I would have the opportunity to fulfill my dream, which was to prove to the world that we could open up a dispensary that brings benefits to communities and not harms. We wanted to show that we could distribute cannabis in a safe and responsible way. I've learned a lot in the last 12 years running Harborside, and I want to take a few minutes today to share with you how cannabis retail works and some tips for your success when you get into this business. Well, the first thing anyone needs to start any business, but especially a cannabis business, is financing. Now, I wish we could all start our businesses with Jack Herer 420 notes, but unfortunately, it's not considered legal tender in the United States. Not yet, anyway. Steve and I are working on that too. But you have to use real dollars and real cents. And one of the things that's difficult about financing is just raising the money. It's hard. It's very, very difficult. It's probably going to be one of the harder things you do as you launch your business. But the way financing works, once you get that money in, is it bonds you with your community. You start to spend money in your community. You start to hire people like lawyers and compliance officers to help you get the license. You hire contractors and architects to help you build out your space. Of course, you're going to need inventory on your shelves, and you're going to engage with all the vendors in your state and your community to make sure you have wonderful cannabis products on your shelf. You're going to hire people from the local community to run your facility, and you're going to use all of those stakeholders to tell your story so the world knows you're there and you're ready to serve the community. Some financing tips. You can do more with more, or you can do less with less. Less can sometimes be more. More can oftentimes be less. Why am I talking to you like Willy Wonka? It's because I want you to spend your money wisely. I've seen so many people come into the space, spend all kinds of money that really didn't speak to the customer at the end of the day, didn't help the customer. I've also seen other people with a lot less money do great work in retail by spending it wisely and focusing on their customer and their customer experience. The second part of cannabis retail you absolutely have to have is compliance. You must have the legal right to open and operate a cannabis retail outlet before you can open and operate a cannabis retail outlet. That's the end of the story. Harborside made some mistakes, and we applied for some licenses that we didn't get. Don't make that mistake. Get the experts into your house immediately. Hire a chief compliance officer, perhaps a general counsel. Oftentimes, the same person can serve in both of those roles. You're going to need legal expertise. Laws are generally drafted by lawyers. The way we interpret laws and apply for licensing, it helps to have that legal talent in the house. Don't skimp on the budget. Invest in compliance. You cannot open your business without the license. Once you get the license, you have to maintain it. And the best way to maintain cannabis licenses is to be transparent and honest with your regulators. If you're having a problem with compliance, if you've made a mistake, don't wait for the regulator to find out about it. Get on the phone, call them up and say, hey, I need you to come in here. I need you to look at what's going on. Let's work together to solve the problem. Regulators really appreciate that honesty and transparency. If you try to sweep stuff under the rug, you're going to be in for a big problems. All right, so now the fun start. We have our license. Now we have to get our locations. And generally, locations in all municipalities that have legal cannabis retail in them, you have two areas that communities want cannabis retail: industrial areas and urban areas. Residential areas are generally off limits. When we first started Harborside, Oakland and San Jose, they wanted these businesses in industrial areas. So we did not have the opportunity to have a lot of foot traffic coming through our dispensary. So we made sure there was plenty of parking, there was easy access to freeways and transportation, and that folks with their automobile could access our shop. If you choose to be in an urban area with lots of foot traffic, you may not have the availability of parking to you. Oftentimes those areas don't have a lot of parking. So you have to really choose carefully where you want to be. Location will determine how much foot traffic you get, but really what determines what brings people into your store is your products and your supply chain, and of course the experience you create that makes people excited to come from far distances away to experience what you've created. Tips for finding your spot. Cash is king. Landlords generally have invested a lot of money into their buildings, and they want a good return on their investment. They tend to be very transactional people. Most of the buildings that are in compliance also are competitive. There's more than one group trying to get in them, so make sure you have plenty of financing and you're able to use your cash accordingly. Do your due diligence. Not every location is right. Even if it seems perfect from the outside, there might be something wrong with it. Make sure there's no toxic waste underneath it. Make sure the landlord's not involved in some lawsuit that can trip you up. Make sure that if you're successful, you can stay there for a long time. Make sure you can renew your lease for multiple terms. The other part of this that I recommend is outwork the other guy. Be persistent. Those of us that work harder than others to get our locations, we tend to get a little bit luckier. I'm one of those people that believes you make your own luck. And the way you do that is with hard work, sweat, blood, and tears. All right. Now we have our location. Time to supply the shop with cannabis products. This is probably one of the more fun parts of building your retail business, is supplying your shops. Well, where do you begin? We know that cannabis comes in lots of different forms. Not everybody wants to smoke a flower. Some people want to take a tincture. Some people want to rub a topical on themselves. And other people want to perhaps take a capsule. So product categories are very important, and making sure you have budget for each category. Make those decisions data-driven. We have all kinds of data available to us now from all kinds of groups like Headset, Canopy, ArcView, BDS Analytics. All kinds of groups are now giving you data. They can tell you what your community or a community like yours likes in terms of products and product categories. It can help you with those investments. Once you stock your shelves and people are buying those products, then you need to analyze your own sales data from your POS, and more importantly, talk to your customers. Learn what they're liking and what they don't like, what's speaking to them and what's not speaking to them, and make sure that you listen and make your choices accordingly. There's going to be some products you probably have to eliminate, and there's probably products you don't have on your menu that you're going to need to put in there. Research your products in the marketplace. If you do not have supply chain relationships, hire someone who does. Generally, unlike landlords who are very transactional, cannabis cultivators and manufacturers tend to be relationship people. So you have to build that relationship. Make sure you go to their facilities and send your staff to their facilities. Make sure their staff comes to your facility. Start to learn how each business operates and works. Build those relationships. Learn what the hopes and dreams of your vendors are. Let them know what your hopes or dreams are. The market is going to have disruptions. There's going to be times where there's a lot of demand and there's not a lot of supply. You want to be at the top of the priority list for those vendors. That's done with relationships. The last thing I always tell people to do, keep a certain percentage of your menu open for new products. 5, 10, 15% of your board ought to be for new and innovative products. There's so much happening in cannabis right now. There's so many wonderful products being created. You don't want to miss out on the next big thing. Delight your customers. Now you have your facility, you've got the products, time to delight your customer. Before you can know how to delight your customer, you have to know what delights your customer in your community. Not every community is the same. If you have a dispensary in Fifth Avenue, New York, or in Beverly Hills, that community is going to be delighted differently than if you have a dispensary in Bakersfield, California, or Toledo, Ohio. When we opened Harborside in Oakland, we knew that Oakland had a long tradition of social justice work, going all the way back to the Black Panthers. So we started a program that allowed our patients to write letters to elected officials, to change cannabis laws, and to write letters to cannabis prisoners. It really delighted our customers to be able to do that, and we gave them vouchers for free medicine every time they wrote a note. And even the folks that didn't write the note were really turned on by that program. Well, then we opened a shop in San Jose. We moved that program down in San Jose, and it wasn't nearly as popular. It wasn't delighting the customers as much. But when we launched web order pickup in San Jose, a tech-savvy community with Silicon Valley right in San Jose, they responded, and they loved that program. They loved to be able to get on their phone and order the cannabis, come into the Harborside, and pick it up. That delighted them. The 3 areas of delight that I always encourage people to focus on is your physical environment and your space. Of course, the products have to be there, and your customer service, your people. That is really what's going to close the loop. Make sure your people make a connection with every human being that comes in their shop. If you're loyal to your customers, instead of expecting them to be loyal to you, you'll find that they will go out into the world and they'll create word of mouth, and they'll tell their friends and family about your business. Those folks will come in, and they'll have a great experience, and you'll delight them. And they'll go out, and they'll tell their friends and family about your experience. And then all of a sudden, you begin to do this wonderful thing where you create community. Your community is going to be based on a common experience. And the plant does so much of the work for us, right? It's all right there. It creates such a great opportunity for us to change people's lives by creating an experience, creating a community, creating that word of mouth. And that momentum, as it builds, one day you're going to be walking through your dispensary. It's going to be crowded with a lot of people, and somebody is going to come up to you, and they're going to look you in the eye, and they're going to shake your hand, and they're going to say, "Thank you. you helped save my life. I'm Andrew DeAngelo. That's why we do cannabis retail. Thank you, and good luck.